Being an automotive enthusiast is a sensory experience. Some might even say spiritual. The smell of fuel, rubber, sometimes clutch. The view of the scenery pass by as you watch the tachometer climb. But today we're focusing on one of the most important senses, sound.
I'm excited. You're probably excited too. A lot of people have been talking about this exhaust, and luckily, AWE sent us I don't think it's pre-production because it got to us the day of release. It's a production version, which is good. We can show you exactly what you're getting if you get the new AWE Touring exhaust system for your GR Corolla. On behalf of Circuit Demon, I want to introduce you to the new GR Corolla exhaust suite by AWE Tuning. Today is launch day for this exhaust. We have one here. Thank you, AWE, for providing us with this, letting us get our hands on it sooner than everyone else. So I want to go through everything with this. This is the Touring edition. What that means is there is a muffler on the pipe between the downpipe and the actual axle back area. Now the track version, it deletes that muffler, so it is quite louder. They are still the resonators on the axle back area of the exhaust, and this exhaust, compared to the other one we have on now, has 3 tips. So initially I was like a little hesitant. A lot of the 3-tip options that are available right now are just like circular tips. I didn't want 4 exhaust tips. I didn't want like just one big old honker in the middle. So when I saw that this was releasing with an oval tip in the center, they did a really cool, nifty video on that. I was very intrigued, and that's why I inquired. Now the tips are only available right now in diamond black. I don't know if they are gonna expand that, but to be honest with you, that's kind of what I was looking for anyways. So win-win. Now, if we look at the center tip here, it is packed very nicely. Now this is the diamond black finish once again. So this is cool. I would say like a lot of wheel companies would call this hyper black. The other thing I like about this as well is the angle of the exhaust itself. It actually looks like it's gonna match the diffuser really well. So it can stick out a little bit. It's all just slip joints, which I prefer for fitment reasons, which we'll show you. But I do like the fact that it's not like a flat tip on the end. It's gonna kind of match the diffuser. Let's check out the exhaust tips for the 2 sides now. Now I do wish that this box also said here's another tip, like this one that says here's a tip. This is hilarious. They actually have like packaging for a blow pop branded lollipop in the center. That really takes a lot of like forethought to do that. That just makes me like, it's very funny to me coming from like, we've made packaging for products before, or had packaging made. And I could just imagine like telling the company that makes this packaging like, hey, we need you to measure this blow pop and accurately cut it out of this foam material. Sorry, side note. Thanks for the blow pop. But yeah, we have the side tips here. These are obviously a bit larger. I would say these are probably 5-inch. We can get a measurement on that in just a moment. And I'm sure it says it on the website. These appear to be all of the different fittings. We got some clamps here. We have some reading material. Couple zip ties. Never know you're gonna need some of those. Another clampy boy. And then a bag of hardware. And some more nuts and bolts. I am a firm believer that you should look at the instructions fully before you start an install, just to make sure you have all the tools and there's no surprises. But yeah, as far as all the parts, they're all here. Everything looks great. It was packed really well. I do really like the finish of the exhaust, especially on my black core. So I don't want to spend a lot of time on a different manufacturer's exhaust, but I do just want to say that I appreciate the fact that these are tips that fit to the actual exhaust system instead of ones that are just garnishes. So the exhaust that I currently have on the car, I do like how it sounds. Taking it to track days and the dyno, it just sounds good. The thing that I don't really like, although it does have carbon fiber exhaust tips, they are just slipped over like a raw stainless steel exhaust. So the finish on the carbon fiber is really cool, and they do make a burnt tip version, but you do still just have like that raw, like non-polished, non-treated exhaust underneath it. And as you can see here, we are in a salt state. That's why my car is so disgusting. You can see right here in New York. I would like a little more hold up over time. Now with these exhaust tips, I can just tell, you know, you'll have to clean them just like any exhaust. With this one, I could spend the time to polish it. I don't really want to do that, but with this, because it has, whether it be a powder coat or some of the sort of finish on it, I can tell already that these are gonna hold up a lot better than this current exhaust I have on here. Now, like I said, I do like the sound on this. I did wanna try something different. I think there's certain times where it's a little louder than I want it to be, and this does seem to have more muffling to it. The other thing that I like too about this one is, and I haven't seen this on too many cars, is the muffler is actually in the midsection. So between the axle back and the downpipe has the larger muffler, and then towards the axle back is just resonators. So I'm kind of curious how that's going to sound. Typically what you'll see in an exhaust system is a resonator towards the front of the car and then a muffler right before the exit of the exhaust. So that's kind of cool. I actually really like that design. It kind of hides a lot of the larger components under the car, so you can't see like this huge gigantic muffler from behind it. So on that note, we're going to do a couple different exhaust clips. I know a lot of people are probably going to compare this exhaust to the factory exhaust. But what I'd like to do is show you how this stacks up against probably one of the larger competitors in the price point. So we'll do that right now. So we are going to time this install just for you at home to know what to expect. I once installed a downpipe, I think 2 hours before I was supposed to go on a date with my now wife. Things worked out, but we didn't finish in time and she wasn't very happy. So let's give this a go, ready? All right. Next step is to put the new one in. So the instructions have us start with the center section, which is that muffler section. So we'll do that first. Then we'll have an exhaust hanger holding it up while we put the rear section on, which is good. I do have to remove these little deletes, which are just little push pots, 2 on each side. It does have us replace the valve, the exhaust valve. Now, neither the previous exhaust or the AWE are valved exhausts. You can read about that in their brochure. But yeah, I mean, valved exhausts are cool. If I'm honest with you, the factory exhaust, I really didn't feel like I got a lot of, which is valved, might I add. I didn't really feel like there was a huge difference. Like wide open throttle compared to just like driving, you would kind of expect it to be loud, or louder, I should say anyways. The center did have a muffler. So I think the valve on the factory exhaust is less for like sound and more for performance. I know that GR or Gazoo Racing or whoever designed the exhaust for the GR Corolla did talk about how that helps open it up and relieve any back pressure. Obviously it's the straight shot from this entire exhaust system out the back. So I really don't think they tried to make that like louder per se. And like I said, when I was driving it with that exhaust, it was fairly tame no matter when you were driving it. I feel like the loudest it ever was really Cold Start, to be honest. I know that there are other more expensive higher end exhausts that you can get that still retain the valve system. But like I said, I think for the price point that the AWE comes in at, and depending how it sounds, who cares? We'll find out how it sounds. Hopefully I don't care. Maybe I do, maybe I will want a valve. Next up, we gotta hide this valve. All right, so we do need to take this off. Now the reason for this, if you don't know, more modern cars like this beautiful futuristic GR Corolla, they will have monitoring systems on a lot of the electrical components. Now the exhaust valve is electrical, there's wires going to it. We just have to keep this in the car, keep the computer happy, and AWE does tell you to ensure that this does not touch the exhaust because it'll melt, and also that the valve motor is able to move freely. And what that's for is that if the valve motor is jammed up against the car and can't move, the computer will see that and be very unhappy, and you'll have to get up under your car again. So this little guy here just needs to be able to spin. So we're gonna zip tie it. like real adults. So I'm just gonna go ahead and snap that back in, and then they show you over here, there's actually a little, come in here, dude. Hello? Oh. I might actually route mine around the back here, just to keep it away from the muffler. I might do something like this. Yeah, that's looking real good. It allows it to freely move over here. We'll have like a nice solid connection here and there, and it won't be viewable to the naked eye. Molecular. Stuff it up here. She's up there. She ain't moving. She's got a whole bunch of clearance. So now on to the fun stuff. That was more of a chore. So next up, we're gonna do the center section here. That's gonna span from the downpipe to the like diff area. Now, I do want to address a concern that a lot of people have, which is that the exhaust heat can affect the diff temperature. Now, obviously, we've all seen online, and if you haven't, don't look too far into it, but the diff on these can overheat. And when I say overheat, the computer catches it. It sees that the temperature is over a level that it feels is safe, and it will switch it to front wheel drive mode. Now, if you guys haven't seen our track day video at Watkins Glen, one of them, you can click this link and check it out. We actually had that error come on twice, 2 different sessions. And luckily it was the end of the sessions, but it did switch to front wheel drive only mode, and I could definitely feel the difference. And how the car drove. We could do heat wrap on it, but from what I read, it's actually the center, this front section of the diff, which is the coupler between the drive shaft and the differential itself, which is the part that overheats. It's smaller, it doesn't have as much cooling properties to it. To me, actually, I saw the other day, somebody came out with a product that helps cool this more. We'll look into that a little bit. Okie doke, so, like I said, this is gonna go up there first. We have our nice nameplate here. It's got a serial number. I like little details like that, they make me happy. And this is gonna go this way with the serial number and the other various branding facing down. Now, for this exhaust, they do have you reuse these springs for this connector, but they do supply you with new bolts. The previous exhaust reused just all the factory hardware for that, which I don't think is a fault, but it is nice to get new hardware, why not? All right, so first things first, I am gonna do the exhaust hanger. What that'll allow me to do is let some of the weight be supported by this while I'm putting the bolts in. It wouldn't make any sense to me to do it the other way. This actually is working really well. I know I kind of look like an idiot right now, but I'm gonna be honest. I feel like this is really doing the trick. Don't tighten those 2 bolts all the way. The reason for that is if you come close, get over here. You come a little closer. So obviously right now, this exhaust hanger is holding it up, and then these 2 bolts. So the exhaust wants to twist this way, like under the driver's side of the car. So if I were to try to tighten those up now, I know for sure that the angle would just be off. Per the instructions AWE says, and I'm glad they put this in there, wait to tighten everything down until the whole exhaust system is in, and then you tighten it down. Even after that, they do recommend doing a heat cycle and then just rechecking the tips. Rechecking the tips to make sure that the angles are the way that you want them to be. The next part we're gonna do is this back, which is the splitter. There's the 3-prong split. And after that, we'll put the tips on and tighten things down. All right, so I did put this on already. This is gonna make things easier. I'm not gonna forget to put it on. It's happened before. So I'm gonna slip it on a little bit and then get this exhaust hanger. Once again, I'm just trying to let something else do the hard work of holding the weight up of this. I'm gonna run this up here. I'm taking these old block plates off. Oh, now you wouldn't have to worry about this at home if you have the factory exhaust, but I gotta take these off, and like I said, my car's a little dirty right now, which doesn't make this much easier. All right, Kanye. All right, now come the side portions. So once again, I'm gonna toss this over first. Now the other thing is you will see the clamp right here is facing down. I would not have that. That is pretty much the lowest part of the car at this point. So I am going to twist that. Now just consider that when you're doing this and how you have it oriented. So this goes on there, and then, oof, actually, the exhaust hanger arms are fairly long on this. So I think I'm actually gonna put this in the exhaust first. All right, that's in there. Oh, we got frontwards ones on this one. There we go. So something that I was curious about when we first opened this up is what these are. So this is the split collar clamp kit. I thought this might actually go on one of the exhaust hangers, which it does. I don't know, the driver's side exhaust, that side pipe just fit a little weird. You can see like just the angle of it's like a little off. I just double checked the instructions like we always do. And these actually attach to the outer exhaust hanger on that side only. The passenger side does not require these, so it's just kind of how these things fit. All right, so this is why we double check things, because like I said, I was like, I haven't used these yet, and I feel like I should have. So these are going to go, one of these is gonna go on the inside and one on the outside of the furthest to the driver's side of the car hanger. So I'm just gonna slip one of these over and make sure I can access the Allen key. And one is gonna go on the outside here. And we're just gonna clamp these all the way down to keep this hanger nice and centered. So now it is time to put the exhaust tips on. AWE recommends that you do add some anti-seize to these. Anti-seize? I sound like such a New Yorker. And that way these don't get all gummed up or break off, especially with all the heat cycles. Heat cycles really make things permanent. We're gonna put a little bit of that on before we put the tips on and get it lined up. And then we'll let you know how it sounds and looks. All right, I'm gonna start with the center because I'm so excited about that oval. It's a thick unit. Initial fitment is leaning a little to the left, but that can be adjusted. So what I'll probably do is start to tighten the tip down a little bit, and then we'll get the sides on, adjust those, and we'll probably have to revisit the center because like I said, if we start to kind of cock this up or back or whatever, it could rotate it a little bit. So yeah, let's start with this, tighten a little bit. We'll go to the sides and then we'll revisit everything. Now the cool thing about AWE, I never knew this, is they are located in Pennsylvania, East Coast company, which is really cool for me. No one is out here usually, as far as manufacturers. Most of them are either overseas or West Coast, or they're on the West Coast because all their stuff is from overseas. So there are little areas here that are opened up in the exhaust. I'm guessing it's just to let like any sort of condensation out. But that's a great way to align it. So obviously with these, because they are cut at an angle, you wanna make sure that the angle is correct. So use that as a guide, have that like right on the bottom of the exhaust. Those are a little snug down, so as you can see, so it's a little off, but we haven't really done any adjustment yet. And the benefit, like I said, with slip joints is you can really kind of push things around to get them exactly how you want. I know with the last exhaust, we were able to do a lot of like strong arming it into place, tighten it down, and it was mint. And it has been mint since we installed it a while ago. A year ago? Almost a year ago. Now the first one I'm gonna do is going to be this side one. This one is off the most out of any of them. So I'm gonna try to get that more towards where it's supposed to be, and then we'll kind of look at the other ones and go from there. Real quick, I do also wanna say a big thank you to AWE for including additional hardware for the exhaust tips. You guys definitely understand how I live my life and the lifestyle that I have. Nice to have extra ones of these. So I'm an idiot. Let me back up real quick. Sorry. Before we finalize these, I do want to start from the front and then tighten backwards. The reason for that, I could get all this stuff like exactly how I want it to be, like laser level perfect. And then I go to tighten up one of the front parts and it just kind of throws things off by a little bit. So why waste the time? We're gonna start up front and work our way back. What I'm doing is going back and forth. I'm doing one side for a little bit and then the other side for a little bit. The reason I am doing that is this is a bit of a donut gasket. It is pretty much a semicircle. I don't wanna tighten one side up and have the exhaust start to skew that way and then try to walk it back the other way. So like I said, we're doing maybe like a 1/4 inch at a time on the threads there and then switching sides just to make sure we're nice and lined up. And for these, they do recommend going all the way to the end of the thread. So that's gonna be a lot of tension on that, which I am cool with. All right, so Jordan said to mention for you guys, why aren't we using like pneumatic or like power tools? There's two reasons we usually don't do that in our videos. One is before we had this lovely facility, I would be on my hands and knees, my back underneath the car working on it. And whenever I'd watch install videos, I would just see people zip things together in like 2 seconds. I like to use these just because this is probably what you guys have access to at home. If you're watching this, you're probably not a shop. If you are, thanks. Either way, we want to make it like a little realistic. And then for a lot of this stuff, because it is like tension based, I don't want to just like zap it with a gun and over tighten it or whatever. I kind of like to feel the tension on this. Maybe it's a personal preference. Maybe I'm stupid for doing that. But for me, it's always like a little, I don't know, either security or just a good way to go about it for me. All right, so we're at 1 hour and 55 minutes. Now, I will say, after we had the exhaust off in 10 minutes, I did take a 25-minute phone call. And then also, we kind of stopped to take some shots of stuff. So yeah, if you're like a novice, you're just getting into it, I'd say like 2 hours, you should be all set. If you have a couple buddies helping you out, I'm sure it'd take you less time. But yeah, I'd probably say around about 2 hours from start to finish, and you should be all set. So at this point, we are gonna lower the car down. I'm gonna turn this bad boy on, and we'll see how it sounds. I have high hopes. How about you guys? All right, so first reactions from being in person with the exhaust, it is much, much deeper of a tone. I can already tell with the previous exhaust, it had a much higher pitch sound and more of a like rasp to it. Like a really if you know like a raspy high pitch exhaust, this is much lower of a tone and more of like a deep kind of growl to it. So yeah, I think overall, like first impressions, I really like the sound of it. I like the feel of it in the car. You can kind of just like, when you rev it, you kind of feel it in your chest, which is great. I think the big test will be on the street and kind of seeing how it sounds. With the previous exhaust, we did get a little bit of drone in the cabin. When I say a little bit, Jordan will probably attest to this because he has ridden in the car a fair amount. There were certain speeds where it would just, especially the back seat, it would be there. So with this exhaust, I am curious to see, especially with the muffler being further forward on the exhaust, if that actually helps with drone. The other thing too is with the tips, because they are slip joint, the previous ones are as well, but if you space them further from the car, even just a little bit, it could help with that drone, just taking that exhaust noise further away from the cabin of the car. I do want to take a moment to really throw a shout out to Sarah and the whole AWE team for getting this exhaust to us on the release day. We had a really fun time installing it. I love how the car sounds, and I'm very excited for tomorrow. And I want to thank you for this beautiful blow pop. And I can't wait to enjoy this on the way home. Until tomorrow, I'm going to be enjoying this myself. See you. All right, it is tomorrow and we are ready to rip this thing. So I drove it home last night. I'm gonna hold my opinions so you guys get to hear it yourself, but let's hop in the car and go for a ride. Okay, so we are at idle and I believe we'll have some outside clips of that as well. I do have my intake code on, so just know, check engine for that. Don't worry about it, it's getting fixed. Just like I said last night on the initial startup in the shop, definitely a much lower tone. I think compared to the MBRP exhaust, the single center exit, I do think it's quieter. Jordan thinks it's louder. So let's hear how it sounds opened up. So yeah, we got some pops out of that one. So yeah, overall, I think this one sounds definitely more refined. I think that forward muffler or large resonator definitely helps clean the rasp up that the previous exhaust had. I think this one, because there are rear resonators as well, it's just more areas to kind of shape the sound. I think the MBRP exhaust was louder, but I think it was like a kind of just get the air out tone. It didn't really have like a, I don't know, I think when I first got that I was like, it's kind of raspy, it's kind of high pitch, where with this one it's engineered to have a sound, and I like the sound it has. Let's see if I can get a decent little bog. This thing pops. Definitely pops more than the last one. That's for certain. I think the reason for that is with the MBRP exhaust, it had the muffler in the back, like a true muffler. This one, like I said, is just a series of resonators to help control the noise and mostly the tone of the exhaust. So that is definitely allowing, I've probably gotten more pops out of the exhaust in the last, has it even been 24 hours, like 18 hours than the last 6 months of having other exhaust. So what is my verdict? Well, I think for me and what I'm after, AWE Touring is the way. So if you guys are interested in this exhaust, we do have it on the site. We have the Touring, we have the Trek, and the conversion kits. Or if you need other parts for your GR Corolla or even Pro tuning, we offer that on our in-house dyno. That about wraps it up for today's video. So enjoy the sweet sounds of this AWE Touring as I drive away.
The view of the scenery passing by as you watch as you watch the tachometer boink off the red part. I like that. I like that a lot.